Hi, I'm Donna Barnes, author of Giving Up Junk Food Relationships. And in this clip, I want to talk to you about making promises, and more specifically, keeping promises. So I think, unfortunately, in the very beginning of dating, people get very excited and swept off their feet sometime, and especially if you've never felt that way before, and you start making all sorts of promises. I promise I'll never hurt you. I promise I'll never leave you. I promise I'll love you forever. All these things that seem really natural when you're totally falling in love with someone. But here's the problem. Unless you've known each other for a minimum of 6 months, you have no idea how you really feel. It takes at least 6 months into a relationship for your issues to start coming up and you to really settle down, and it's when that really infectious, can't get enough of you, head over heels feeling starts to level out a little bit, and then you're left with your really true feelings. And if you've made all these promises prior to getting to that point, well, the problem is now you may not want to keep those promises. And I think that frequently happens. And then the poor person who's left with the broken promises has a really hard time getting over it. Sometimes they have the rug pulled out from underneath them. So I think, please do not make promises until you've been in a relationship for a minimum of 6 months and really have a better sense of what your true feelings are so that you don't hurt someone else. I think your word is your bond. At least my word is my bond. Remember the boy who cried wolf? If you start making promises and then you never keep them, or you change your mind, I've heard that so often, well, I changed my mind. You don't get to change your mind when you make a promise. A promise is a promise. And that phrase, promises are made to be broken, I think it came about because so many people change their mind and break their promises. But no, a promise is a promise. It's exactly that. You promise it. You don't get to change your mind. You already made the promise. So, sorry, without getting on too much of a tangent, I think it's really important for you to value your word and never ever promise anything that you don't fully intend to live up to always. So, you may promise you won't hurt somebody. You can't promise that. You don't know that. You can promise you'll never intentionally hurt somebody. And, with the best of intentions, I'm not saying that, you get married and then you have to be married to the person for the rest of your life if it doesn't work. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people get married too quickly, and it's that same principle. And they're in it, and they feel uncomfortable, and they feel different, and then they feel trapped because they made these vows. And I think a lot of people do take that more seriously than a regular promise. But again, I think until you experience certain events in a relationship, you do not know how you're truly going to feel about it. So please do not make promises until you know how that feels. And I'll tell you, I think people will have a lot more respect for you, and it's a true sign of integrity. I can tell you the people in my life that maybe things didn't work out with, but they never made any promises to me, I have the world of respect for. And I think it's a lot easier to get over those relationships and move on and recognize that it just didn't work than if someone made promises to you. If someone promised you, I'll love you forever and I'll never hurt you and I'll never leave you, and then they really hurt you and they leave you, it's really hard to reconcile that. And I think especially if you thought that that person had integrity and then they didn't honor their promises, it's a lot harder to get over that. And then, you're left with feeling guilt because you didn't keep your promises, and it's just a whole hot mess. So the better thing to do is just really, really be careful about any promises that you make. And I think a good gauge to go by is to wait at least 6 months in the beginning of a relationship before you make any promises. I'm Donna Barnes, author of Giving Up Junk Food Relationships.